This video is late. It's supposed to be out this morning. But I recorded it last week, and then I went to sit down and edit it, and, well, here it is. I don't know what happened. Maybe I didn't plug in the microphone or something like that. And the trouble is, that was at the end of a very, very long day. Like, last week was extremely hectic at school. Like, so hectic that I couldn't make videos after school. There was too much going on. There was like, it was bad. I stayed late to shoot the video, and then it failed because it had no sound. And I was really excited too, because that back piece there is, I'm gonna have a video coming out about it, is a street artist from Philadelphia that goes by the name of Amberella. So Amberella came into my school. She like did an interview for my students, and like they got to ask questions. I interviewed her, and then she showed the boys how you do a wheat paste. And so I went and got plywood and I put it up on the wall, and she did this whole thing, and I was excited to shoot in front of it, and then it failed. And then Friday night, came home from school, ran really quick, shoveled some food into my mouth, packed up my gear, and then me and Jenai and Marley all went to York, Pennsylvania, and then Billy and Michelle came up on Saturday morning, and we shot videos for Upgrade Ed for our new course that's coming out next week. Quick, whole Upgrade Ed team here. Got to meet Billy for the first time, and so like all this stuff has just been happening. And then I tried to edit the video and it failed miserably. It's been a busy weekend. I had my 300th day of running yesterday in a row, so I've been running for 300 days straight. Today will be 301, and I have only 64 days to go after that. So it's pretty good feeling. People keep asking me if I'm gonna run afterwards. I don't know. I really hate running. I hate it every single day, but that's a whole nother video someday also. So today is not about running. It's not about Upgrade Ed. It's not about Michelle and Bridget, although maybe kind of, sort of, they're in there. Today is about why I became a teacher. I made a whole video about this before. You can go check out the long version, but the reason I wanted to do this video was, to be honest, I just like doing collaborations with people when I can do it. It's not as easy now as it used to be, because there's so much stuff going on, but I really like being a part of this. I really like being a part of this community. And I just think community is important. And so if one of your friends, like Megan at Too Cool for Middle School, reaches out and says, hey, want to be a part of this? I like to just be a part of whatever I can. So underneath in the description box, you're going to see links for all the other people that did this. I'm not going to bother naming them all here. You can just go down bottom, and I won't name them all because I'll probably forget somebody, and I don't want to hurt their feelings. We're all answering the same questions that Megan has come up with for us, and I will begin answering those questions now. Number one, did you always know that you wanted to be a teacher? If not, when did you decide to become a teacher? I did not want to become a teacher. I did not like school. I was a solid C- student. And then I went to community college for a very, very long time.
Is it true that this is your 7th year at Coolidge?
Carry the 2? Yes, that's correct.
I think my first year in college, I've not divulged this information before. My first year at community college consisted of taking art history, yoga, I think it took Spanish, and some class about reading. And I don't even remember what that class was. That was my first year in college. That's pretty much what I did. And I dropped out of yoga because there was some hippie guy in front of me that was doing a long stretch, and his dirty hippie sock touched my eye, and I got up out of that class and left. I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to be a drummer. I wanted to be, are you going to cough through the whole video? Now, are you seriously? Are you sure? If you only knew what was happening over here. The dog ate a stuffed animal, and Brody's restuffing it right now.
Tell them to see
well, maybe we'll have it at the end. Yeah, all right, we'll talk about it later. I'm really on the ADD bus today. Wanted to be a drummer. I wanted to be a carpenter. I wanted to be a priest. I wanted to be a clown that traveled the world and went to third world countries and like tried to make people happy that were stuck in hospitals. And I did all of those to an extent. Like I spent time in a monastery years ago in Kentucky where Thomas Merton lived. I traveled to Africa and did like a little bit of clowning when I was in the hospitals there and tried to brighten people's days. I did drumming. I was a carpenter. I did woodworking, custom woodworking for like rich people that could afford to have their furniture built for them. So all these things. But then at some point, someone said, why don't you just become a teacher? You're great with kids. And so I did. And it turns out that teaching is like everything else I wanted to be, like all thrown into one. It is being a jackass. It is deeply caring for people. It is making something from nothing every single day like a woodworker does. and it's a performance. Like, you are there to somewhat entertain children, and that was a weird thing to say, but I do. I entertain children, and I try to make school not suck. And so that is like entertainment value. And I like books, so I guess I should throw that in there too. Question number 2, what did you major in college? I majored in English, which is completely useless unless you want to be an editor, but I don't want to read other people's stuff, so that didn't really work out. Number 3, what kind of requirements does your state have for teachers? Did you have any observation hours, student teaching, etc.? We had to do, when I was in school, it was two practicums. So like practicums are like you had to go in and do like observational hours in a school. I did one of those at a school that was really wonderful, and then I did another one at Winslow Township High School where I stayed with this guy, Mr. Z, and Mr. Z was awesome. And so we hit it off so well that he actually ended up contacting my college and seeing if I could student teach there with him, and which the college told me they've literally never had someone do before. That's how awesome this guy is. That says nothing about me, but how awesome Mr. Z is. Then Mr. Z calls me up and says, hey, I requested you. I want to meet you before we do student teaching. And I want you to know that you're going to have the best student teaching experience that anyone's ever had. And that is a hell of a promise, but he completely came through. I mean, it was awesome. I was involved with the drama team. I was involved with SATs. He was really well respected around the school. And I still, like, that experience was so good that I still keep up with those students. Like, just maybe a year ago or so, like, we all went out for drinks because they're all like grown up now. Like, we went out and had wings and drinks one night, and it was really fun. So I think, just side note, when you are student teaching, don't treat it as a throwaway experience. Be there to really make those deep relationships, to really practice hard on what this craft that you're growing into, because those students will be adults one day, and it's so fun to just keep up and have somebody remember when you weren't so great of a teacher is really great. Number 4, how do you decide which age group, elementary or secondary, or what subject you wanted to teach? English was the only subject that I was willing to teach. And the reason for that is because books have been such an integral part. I literally would not be who I am today if I did not start reading. And I didn't even like reading until I was like 18 or 19 years old. And I just caught up with this old friend recently, John Feen. And John Feen is my oldest friend in the world. And I remember John, who is someone that I respect very much, at one point telling me about some book that he was reading. And he was like, you should read this book. And I said, bro, I don't read books. Like, I never read a whole book in my life because I wanted to. And I just remember him looking at me and saying, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard someone say. Why would you not want to read? And that really hit me. Like, it affected me deeply. And from then on, I just decided that I was going to be a reader. And I started reading everything. And the more I read, the more I realized, like, oh, this is why people read, because you actually get smarter and you get more ideas and all this great stuff happens. So that led to me being an English teacher. I chose secondary. I get along with kids, and I really bond with children of all ages. But there's something about that 9th grade year where I feel like you're starting to become who you're really going to become. And it's this awkward age where, like, you don't really get along with your parents. You're trying to figure out who your friends are. You're trying to figure out who you are. There's a lot of internal struggle there. And I think because of that reason, I was really drawn to that particular age group. Number 5, did you ever do substitute teaching? I substitute taught for 2 days. That was it. I went through the FBI check and the background check. I got fingerprinted. I got all of my, whatever kind of certification you have to get, or paid them whatever money I had to pay them to finally substitute teach. And I hated it so much because it wasn't my own classroom. And that's why I never make videos about substitute teaching. I get a lot of emails asking me to make videos about substitute teaching. But look, some people love it. And I've known people that have gotten jobs out of it, or really, really are deeply fulfilled by being a substitute teacher. I did not have that experience. Just like baseball. I know a lot of people that were great at baseball and loved it growing up. And I just sucked and sat in right field all the time. Put dandelions between my feet and then jumped in the air to pull them out of the ground. True story. Number 6, what was the process like to apply for your first teaching job where you were hired? So my first teaching job was in Camden, New Jersey, and that experience looked like this. I went to the school. I sat in an office with the principal. The principal asked me 2 questions. What does your classroom management look like? And I never even had a real class, so I didn't have any classroom management. And 2, what was it like to teach in Africa? Which is teaching in Africa has nothing to do with teaching in America, right? It's like teaching on another planet. That was my whole interview. Then they showed me the school. Then they offered me the job. It wasn't that hard of a job to get, is what I'm saying. I stayed there for 5 years, and then I moved to West Philadelphia. And West Philadelphia was a far more comprehensive interview. It was like, I think it was like I got interviewed, and then I had to do a demo lesson. And the demo lesson was in a classroom filled with children that were behavioral issues and couldn't go on the trip that year to some amusement park. So they did like stay back and do work. And then they put me in that room. And I felt like it went really well. And then all of these teachers sat in the back and watched me. Then I had an interview with like 2 more people. Then they brought me back to the school, and I had an interview with the CEO of the school that I'm at now. And then I got the job after that. And it was like way more intense situation than my first job interview. Question number 7. Were there any common interview questions that you remember? Not that so I think everyone always wants to know about like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What's something that you can grow in? And what's your classroom management look like? And to be honest, look, if you've not taught before, there's nothing, you can't really prepare because you don't have anything to base it on. Like, you haven't really done much yet. Student teaching, yes, but you haven't had like your own classroom. And so I would not try to be anything. I think that what the advice I'd like to give here that I think is even more important from me anyway is, 1, don't try to be anything that you're not. Don't try to oversell yourself, and don't sell yourself short either, right? There's this like balance that you have to find in there. I think the other piece of information is to make sure you're interviewing the school as well. Teaching can feel like you just want a job, right? You'll just take any job. But if you think about any other part of your life, like if you buy a house, you don't just buy any house. If you date someone, probably you don't just date anyone. You like feel it out and you see if this is a person that's a match for me, right? You swipe them left or right. I don't really know what that whole life is like because pretty much been with my wife for my entire existence, but you want to have some say-so in there. So what I would do is look at the school's website, see if they have like a school newspaper or if there's been articles written up in the paper about them, and have a sense of who they are, what they're about. See if there's some programs at their school that you'd like to be involved in, so that when you go to the interview, you can interview the school as well, because they're always going to say, hey, do you have any questions for us? As a matter of fact, I do. And it could just be a very short list, like 3, 4, 5 things where you're asking about the robotics team or their crew team, or are there positions available to be able to work with the drama group, or whatever it is that's your passion, that you're going to bring this extra thing and to the work. And it also shows that you did your homework also, that this isn't just another school. I sit in on a lot of interviews, and whenever someone just seems like they're there as part of one of the 5 interviews they're going to do that day, it's disheartening. You want someone that wants to be there, and I think that that's just really important. Number 8. What was the first teaching position you were hired for, grade level, subject, etc.? I taught in Camden, New Jersey, and I taught 9th grade literature, and I had an elective called Shakespeare that I thought was for kids that liked Shakespeare, but it turns out it was for just kids, and they all hated Shakespeare, and that was the first time I ever got cursed at by a kid. And I don't want to talk about that anymore. Number 9. What did you feel prepared for on the very first day of your very first job? What did you feel underprepared for? I felt terrified. I remember sitting in my classroom on that first day. I got to school about 6 o'clock in the morning. School didn't start till about, I feel like 7 or 8, I forget. When the bell rang and I heard that rush of children coming down the hallway, I just remember thinking, oh my God, I need to leave. I should just get out of here. Like, this was a terrible idea. But then when they showed up, and in that first day, when kids were just saying things like I said, I gave them seats and they actually sat in them. When I said, I need you to get quiet so I can speak, and they did. It was like, oh, maybe I can do this. Like, let's try some stuff. And they didn't always stay quiet, and they didn't always sit in the seat that they were supposed to, and they didn't always do a lot of things. But I started getting the sense that I could do this. What I learned, maybe not in the first day, but very quickly, was that the way that I relate to children outside of school was the same thing. I could use that superpower inside of school. So my whole life I've been, when I go to parks, when I go to the mall, when I'm, food shopping, kids always just talk to me. And I've talked about this in other videos, but it used to be like a creepy thing for me where like, when you're 18 and you're like food shopping and some little kid goes, I like dinosaurs, and it's like, and his mom looks at you and you're like, I didn't prompt that. I don't know where that came from. Or someone goes, I don't really feel well today. Or, hey, can I play with you? And I'm like, I don't know who you are. I feel weird right now. But as I've gotten older, it's like really having my own kids when I go to the park and I'm playing with my kids and every other parent is like just blissfully unaware of what's going on probably. Kids always come up to me and they tell me about who they are and what they like and what school's like and that they, can they play with me and my kids? And it's like, yeah, because now I'm playing with my own kids. It's not like I'm a grown up just playing at a park because that would be weird.
You know what I'm talking about?
I have a belly button.
You have a belly button? Well, we all have belly buttons. You know what? We all love Yoo-hoo.
But I'm with my own children and this has happened my whole life. And so that transferred over to the classroom and that has been my saving grace in the classroom. What did I feel unprepared for? Pretty much everything else. Like the workload, the stress, all the things that people ask you to do, the behavioral outbursts of children because you don't know how to deal with all that stuff yet. And I just say to people like, look, if you're dealing with any of that right now, keep moving the needle slightly in the right direction and I swear you will get better. Do not try and do it all at once. That's like, if you never really cooked before, don't make Thanksgiving dinner. Like make a thing and bring it to Thanksgiving dinner. And then maybe next year up the ante and make something a little bit even cooler. But like when we try to like do the whole thing, it's like going to the gym and working out every single part of your body and it's like that's a bad idea because then it just hurts the next day. But if you just do sets and you're mindful about what you're doing and you're moving in the right direction, you will get stronger and stronger. Number 10, which is the last question. Do you have any last bits of advice for people who are on their journey to becoming a teacher? Sure, I always have 100 pieces of advice because I just think this job is so important. And so I would say more than anything, and look, people talk about this all the time, right? This is one of the number one questions, even at this time of the year that I get on the live feed, is that folks are worried about teacher burnout, or what do I do when I'm burning out, or there's not enough time. I say you have to have time to fill yourself up. Right? There's some old story that, look, I'm going to butcher this, but go with me for a second anyway, where there's this idea that there's two wolves living inside of you. And there's like the kind of prideful, ego-filled, like angry wolf, and there's the wolf that is like loving and kind and generous. So the idea in the story is like, which wolf is the strongest? Which wolf are you? And it's the one that you feed the most. So if you're feeding that one with the kindness and the love and the empathy and the passion, that wolf is going to be stronger. The other one still exists. Like you can't get rid of it. You can't I don't know that you can kill it off. And that maybe that's a deeper philosophical question, but I think it's important to be able to take care of yourself. And so what that looks like in my own life, and I've talked about this, ad nauseum in a lot of videos, is like getting up early and praying, meditating, having a vision for what my day looks like. What would my day look like if it was the best? Making sure that I'm taking time out to spend time with my wife. I really like hanging out with my wife. I really like hanging out with my kids. I really like sitting and petting my dog. I do a lot of stuff like I do gardening. I run every day, even though I hate that, but I know that that's good for me, so that's why I do it, even though I hate it. And it's making sure that I'm finding some time with friends or that I'm working on stuff that excites me, like making YouTube videos or making stuff for Upgrade Ed or mentor calls with people. Like that's still more work, but it like fills me up with so much goodness to talk to all these wonderful people that I get to talk to every week on these phone calls. Doing the live feed is great. Like I'm tired as hell when I'm done and I'm like want to just sit down and like have a beer and watch TV, but like it's such a great thing to be able to give to the world. But I can only give that because I'm filling myself up with all this other goodness. So I would say in going into teaching, whether it's your first year or your 30th year, making yourself a priority, making sure you're putting on the oxygen mask first before you put somebody else's on, because otherwise that person lives and you will die on the airplane with no oxygen mask on. That was a dark turn. Anyway, gang, couple things before I'm done. One, if you like these videos, I don't ever tell people this, but you should subscribe. I don't really care if you like, I don't think that does anything, but subscribing and hitting the bell lets you know things like that the live feed is coming on Sundays or that a new video just got uploaded. Also, take a deep dive into some of the people that are in the description box. You're going to find somebody that you gel with, someone that you really, really like. Maybe it's Megan at Too Cool for middle school, or it's Kate the Sleepy Teacher, or it's Michelle over at Pocketful of Primary, whatever. Try and find some of those folks and see who you really kind of gel with, and they might help your school year to be better than ever. Are you really... That's what's happening right now, huh?
Can I go over here?
Yep. Here's my life, everybody. When you're wondering what Reynolds' life looks like.
Hi.
Hi. Do you remember what your name is?
Fred.
Nope. Lionel?
Lionel Richie.
Oh, yeah.
High five, man.
Hey, high five. How are you today?
Good. I've been. Can I be in your videos more?
I think you could be in my videos more, sure.
You just told everybody.
Oh,
You're not supposed
I didn't know.
to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I love you.
Don't forget to subscribe.
All right. Are we done? Oh, this is just all. Oh, look at that. That's a great. All right, everyone.
Okay, bye.
All right.
Bye. Peace.
Peace.